Hello and welcome to the Stress Mastery Podcast. I am your host for the Saturday podcast, Peggy Romero. I have a guest with me today, Felix Hernandez. He is one of the master coaches at Stress Mastery, so I thought that I would interview him today. We've had him on the podcast before, so he is a love purpose. So I thought since this week we're talking about the love purpose archetype in our series of all of the archetypes of purpose, that he would be great. So I'm grateful that he's on with me today. But if you haven't listened to the other ones, go back and listen. We started with growth purpose, and we are just continuing through each of them. So it's really great to understand your purpose. And Felix is going to shed some light on why that's so important. So that in a minute. I just want to tell you the overview of the love purpose, and then Felix will get deeper into it. So the love purpose archetype feels the need to protect and heal people. Consequently, they offer nurturing protection to those around them. They want to protect people from harm, discomfort, and attempt to prevent any danger or risk from threatening their well-being and happiness. The negative side of the love purpose archetype is where indifference causes them to become a martyr who reminds everybody of all of his sacrifices they have given for everyone else. The love purpose archetype can function today as healthcare providers of any practice and discipline, and they can range from being a heart surgeon to a massage therapist to even an energy healer because they love people. They can also be veterinarians, gardeners, teachers, coaches, Felix, therapists, or a nun in a convent. In organizations, they may be in human resources or trainers, an executive, or the secretary that brings up the energy. So just a reminder, understanding your purpose helps you understand why you behave and react and feel the way you do. And understanding another's purpose will help you understand how to communicate and interact with people in our lives with compassion and empathy. So with that being said, Felix, the love purpose, is married to a beautiful woman named Denise, and she's a connection purpose, right?
Yes, she is. Thank you for having me, Peg.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Felix will be able to put a lot of light on the subject of love because this guy is a real love bug. So I thought it was perfect interview today. So thank you, Felix. So I really want to get across to our listeners how important it is to not only know your purpose, but to be able to understand it, because it helps us understand ourselves, but also how it is so important in relationships and how understanding your purpose can impact your daily life with everybody that you meet and see, right?
Well, so let me begin by saying that after you went through the list of careers that our love purpose might be involved in, I grew up Catholic, but I was never called to the priesthood and certainly not the nunship
Yeah.
for that matter. I always dreamt of being an airline pilot, and that did not took place, but not understanding my purpose in because it was involved in my heart, it guided me to the career that I've been doing for over 35 years, which is personal training. And in some cases, yes, there is some healing in that particular profession. So I really enjoy what I do. I love what I do. What I do is not my job. It's what I am grateful because I get to do. So being that I said that, when I went through the purpose exercise, the one thing that rang bells for me was the moment that I heard the description of becoming indifferent. When I swing into my pendulum and I become indifferent or become a martyr, that just blew me away because that's exactly my modum operandis for the longest time.
Wasn't that crazy?
And it's amazing because when you live in your purpose, you begin to understand who you are and what you are doing in each moment. So, for example, we have a daughter and a son, and I do a lot of the home chores. And for the most part, before understanding my purpose, before stress mastery, yes, I would be constantly complaining, why am I having to do the dishes? Or why am I having to clean the house? Or why am I having to do this when you have, and all that I do for everybody in this house and nobody does. And it was such a chaotic situation that I would create, not understanding why. And now when I understand that all of what I was doing was disconnecting myself from who I truly am, then it's changed the entire environment in our home.
So letting the ego take over and saying, why am I the only one in here who cares? Right?
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
crazy. It's so, isn't it funny how you realize, oh, I really couldn't help it. But now that I know I can help it, but it's just who you are. It's crazy.
Yeah, previously it was just a matter, it was so automatic that you couldn't see it. And
Exactly.
that's what understanding your purpose has done for me. I now see it, I now understand it. And the weirdest thing is when I see it with my daughter or my wife, I ask the question, can you see it? Can you see your ego? Can you see your pendulum swing? Can you see your activation?
Mhm.
And in some cases, it doesn't go too well, but most cases, they slow down enough because they've been watching me now for several years, working on myself and working on stress mastery and understanding who I am, who I really am. And once you do that, and this few weeks ago we were talking, or last week we are talking about freedom. I think that's one thing that's given me a lot of freedom, is understanding who I am and what I am here to do.
Amazing.
So if I may, I'll give a vivid example of something that would be possibly something that can happen on a daily basis to any couple, because of course we're all humans and we're all living our human experience, right? And understanding my wife is a connection purpose, and her pendulum swing is to become aloof, and that typically means to be cold and distant. And I guess it just this few weeks ago, even a week ago, it just took place. Every morning we get up very early, get up around 4:30 to do my Green Focus Power Hour, and then she wakes up and we go to the gym around 5:30. This particular morning or the night before, I mentioned to her that I was going to go in the morning because I have to take my son to work right after. She didn't say anything, so I woke up, did my thing. I looked at her 5:30. I saw her so comfortable in the bed. She was asleep. So I figured, okay, she is going to stay. Let me not bother her anymore. Let me just go and do my thing. I went to the gym and I won that moment because I had a great workout. When I come back home to the first question as I walk in. I go, good morning, honey. She goes, why didn't you wake me up? And I go, because you look so comfortable. And if I would have woken you up, then you possibly would have been upset at me. So I figured you didn't want to go to the gym. She goes, oh, all you wanted to go is go see the women at the gym. And the minute that came out of her mouth, I understood that was being presented with her ego. It wasn't her, right? So I knew her ego, Melba, was taking over.
Mhm.
So I just smiled and went, took off, went to take a shower, did my stress mastery tapping routine. And when I come back and she's doing the dishes, and I go, so can you see it? And her answer was, can I see what? And I said, well, can you see the situation that I was in this morning? And the question was, what do you mean? And I go, well, if I would have woken you up and you did not want me to wake you up, you would have been upset at me. In return, I actually didn't wake you up because I felt you wanted to rest. And I came back and you were still upset at me because I didn't wake you up. So
No way.
understand that there was no way that I was going to be okay in this situation, right? So at that point, she had already become distant and her aloofness, and all I got was a smirk, a little smile, and she started talking to me like nothing would happen. And we
Nice.
and we went about our day. So understanding where she was at, understanding that it was her ego that was actually attacking me when I walked in the door,
Mhm.
and more importantly, understanding that she was going to swing into her pendulum swing of disconnect or of being cold and distant, gave me the opportunity to slow down, go into my stress mastery tapping, allow to release that activation, and then come back to her and see if she was able to see the situation. So this is something that for me has been a game changer, because previously, before stress mastering, before this awareness, it would have been a shit show, to be
Yeah.
honest, because the rest of the day she would have been angry at me. I would have been, my pendulum swing is indifferent. So I would have said, oh, what the hell, forget it. Let's just leave it
Couldn't
alone.
win that one.
Right. And I would have gone about my day upset and angry. She would have gone about her day upset and angry. And we probably wouldn't speak to each other maybe till later on that evening in a not so nice manner. Right. So when you understand your purpose, and more importantly, you understand your significant other's purpose, that gives you such a heads up when it comes to any situation that approaches you, both of you, at any given time, because that gives you the opportunity to work through it.
Yeah. It's like having a nice sharp tools in your toolbox. You
Absolutely.
know when to approach her and when to not to, and you understand exactly what she's going through. So no sense in forcing, you know.
Absolutely
Good.
not. And it's interesting because Bill asked me the other day, do you really ask her if she can see it? And I go, yes, I do. He
How does
goes,
that
oh,
go?
oh,
You've
that's,
probably learned when you can ask and when to just keep it zipped up, right?
uh-huh. And, you know, the one thing I've learned is that every activation is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to learn. So I try in my own household to utilize those as a growth moment. And
Mhm.
if I can get her or my daughter to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I do see it. I see why I got upset, or I see how this situation could have not been as beneficial as it, ended up, then it's a plus for us because it's an opportunity to grow.
Yeah,
And
because even if they didn't have awareness at that second that it was happening, and you point it out later, as long as it's at the right time, and then they say, oh, yeah, then that's still awareness. It's just awareness, after the fact. So it's still
absolutely.
awareness, though. It's still one step closer.
Absolutely. And that's really what it's the key to everything. This is why knowing your purpose is so, so important. And then learning the family members' purposes as well, because it gives you that opportunity to use every activation as a
Mhm.
growth opportunity versus
Exactly.
versus the other way, which would be a shit show, like I said before.
Yeah, I know some people swing really low and they just need time, you know, just let me have some time, let me think this over, and then they'll come back and be okay. And other people are better faster, but if you don't understand anything about what they're going through, then it makes us kind of, not cold in a calculating way, but when somebody needs space, give them space. When somebody needs, you know, compassion or for you to listen, it's just nice to know what somebody needs. So I do think understanding purposes is really, really important. I
Yeah,
know I used to be a lot more forceful with mine vitality purpose because I swing like down if nothing's moving. That means moving the way I think it should be moving. It can't just be moving, it needs to be my way. And I would just like feel myself just starting to boil, like, come on, let's move. And now I can expect it. So I'm like, oh, yeah, we're stuck here in stagnation. I can just feel the ego wanting to take over, but thank God I have enough awareness now that I'm like, okay, let me take a breath. This is going to be okay too. It's crazy.
hey, the one thing is being able to see who am I communicating with? Am I communicating with her ego or am I communicating with her? And if I'm
And is it
communicating
you or your ego too? Is another thing
precisely,
people make a
because
big
that's
deal.
one of the things that when I said to her, can you see it? And I explained to her, she goes, look, just like you do to me, when I get activated and you say, hey, Ralph, what's going on? That's bring me awareness to me, which
Hmm.
means, okay, yes, absolutely, I'm activated.
Yeah,
Well, that's the same thing I'm doing for her. So we complement each other by not feeding each other's egos.
right.
That's what I was trying to get
Perfect.
to.
Yeah.
What I was trying to get to. So in that sense, it changes everything in the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah, it has to make a much more peaceful household too. And you've been married a long time, right?
Well, 25 years might be considered a long time. I don't know.
Only half your life.
I don't get why people say, oh, 25 years. Are you crazy? Married to the same person? God, I love it. I love my marriage. I love my wife. I'm a love purpose. What can I
I was
say?
gonna say, you love everything, Felix, let's face it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we don't have our ups and downs, but we have each other. And, one of the biggest things is when we're together is a much better situation than when we're apart. Absolutely. So that's the one thing that has kept us really together throughout our ups and downs. So I would say to everybody or anybody that's listening, go into the community, look at the purpose exercise, find out what is your purpose. And if you have any questions, ask any of the coaches or ask Bill or David or any one of us. We gladly will help you. Because once you start in that journey and you start figuring out who you truly are, then you can start working on who you're married with. Hey,
Mhm.
what's the purpose of your children? And you can start working and understanding the human side of who you live with under your same roof. And that changes everything.
Yeah, just being able to handle everything actually with like kid gloves because you get it. It's a whole new ball game. Yeah,
Completely.
understanding your kids and your friends and yeah, your siblings and all that is really good.
And in the
Parents,
same, yeah, and the same token, I would say, look into the stress mastery energies. Energies have changed my relationship with my son, which I've mentioned in other podcasts as an adult with autism, and he's extremely sensitive to energy. So as I approach him, he'll pick up the energy that I'm in. If I'm angry at him, he will react to that. If I am at peace, he will not react to that. He will
mm,
actually be at peace. So the energies, the purposes are the basis, as far as I'm concerned, of having uh, a great family dynamic where you can actually be able to utilize any conflict that comes into your household or comes into your family as a growth opportunity and not get stuck in it.
mhm. Yeah, it's isn't it amazing how different it is when you don't get stuck and just reeling through the minute, the hour, the day, the week. Like,
So like I always like to say, before stress mastery, this was me. I was a hamster on a hamster wheel, living the same day, every moment, every day, living and reliving the same day, and living actually in I guess we can't talk about, not we can't, but it's sort of like bored with what I was doing and where I was. And once I found who I truly was and I truly found my purpose and I connect to that, every day is a new adventure. Every day is a brand
because we're
new
living in
experience.
expansion instead of restriction. Like the whole world is, oh, it's right here. It's amazing. So beautiful. Well,
Absolutely.
is there anything else that you want to talk about on here?
As far as the purposes are concerned, just to encourage everyone once again to make sure that they go into the community and look into their purposes. And once again, I will remind everyone we're more than gladly there to help you through the process.
Mhm.
And once you start understanding that aspect of who you truly are, then you start impacting your life and impacting the life of others that are around you.
helping us create a shift in the planet, right?
Absolutely. One person at a time.
Also, just to remind you guys that the Stress Mastery community is free and you don't even have to put a credit card in for later or anything. So, I mean, there's not a reason not to go in there. It's fantastic in there.
So yeah, and the one thing I will say is looking at the purposes, you'll begin to understand how they actually impact your daily life as you experience it. Because you can read everything, you can find out what your purpose is and your values are, but once you start living it and experiencing your disconnects, your pendulum swings,
Yeah, seeing it and understanding it.
Absolutely. When you're connected, how time just seems to flow. I just say, God just stops time sometimes for me because I go through things and I'm stunned. How did this happen? How did I actually have time for this? And now I understand that's the moments that I'm in flow, right? So it's interesting what begins to take place once you truly understand who you are.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's just like the love purpose. It's just beautiful. Thank you for coming on the show with me today, Felix. I really appreciate you. Felix is in the community, so if anybody wants to message him, direct message, or just ask a question in the community, he's there to answer. And yeah, he's a great guy. I'm really glad that I know you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to know you, Peg.
Thanks. Anyways, that's it for today's podcast. And remember, our mission here is to create a shift in the planet. And you can join Felix and I, joining Bill and David, to create a shift in the planet. And you can help us by simply like, share, and subscribe. And the links are right below the show notes. As always, until next time, stay inspired.